Wednesday and it's only 8 o'clock, so everyone should be having a pretty good day. So earlier today I did a live stream, first time in a long time, and I did have someone say that they did have a problem with the angle, and I agree. I think the angle was kind of suspect. So that I worked really hard on the angle. Also did a really nifty thing. You can see there's a grayscale, just to show you guys and girls out there what I'm talking about is like when you have to hit those values. Definitely have to hit those values. That's what it's all about. That's what drawing is all about, the values. Also a little YouTube icon, just reminding everyone to go ahead and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And that is Timothy John Luke Smith or Painted Glyphs 333. Either or, you just go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I know it's not that big a deal, but for me it's a big deal. It'll be the first stepping stone into me getting 1 million subscribers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take care of this. Okay, so all right, so let me go back to my reference of this portrait. When I left off, I basically was utilizing the white pastel to go ahead and create form in a sculptural way. And that's what I'm going to be doing now. Now, as I said before, one of the great advantages of working with this gray paper is that I can actually sculpt the darks as well as the lights. By erasing the white, I'm able to go ahead and sort of be a little more broad in my approach. So here I'm using a stump, and as those who followed me before, you use one stump dedicated for the pencil, one stump dedicated for the white pastel, and make sure that you do not use the wrong one for the wrong item. That would be a real problem. It'll cause this sort of grayish blue mess, and you definitely don't want to do that. To my YouTube people out there, how are you? And I hope everyone's doing okay on YouTube. This is the first time I'm actually doing a YouTube video, a live view, and a Facebook live view at the same time. I'm also recording this, so I'm going to be putting this in my video in the future. I'm doing a YouTube video, you know, from start to end. So this is just going to be part of it. Then here I do see where the cheekbone is, which is right about here. Now I'm using this mono eraser. And once again, with the paper stump dedicated for the pencil, I'm just indicating. So I hope everyone can see the grayscale. I hope you're enjoying that, because that is really to the heart of the matter when working on drawing. Value is everything. Well, not everything, but a big part of it. Using my mechanical pencil here. It's Pentel 0.5. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to work on this shadow plane over here, the cast shadow actually, that the ear is making. Now the ear is almost all covered with the hair. In the beginning, I like to use cross hatching. And with cross hatching, you can pretty much, you have more control if you just went straight in with value. Like with a 6B, just went in with a 6B Woodless Graphite, just went in there right away. You would get the dark, but you wouldn't have that tight control, which you want. Always pay attention to the edges. You see this dark shape, but it's not a very harsh shape. It's pretty soft on this edge here. So just soften that up. And I see here, like right up to this point, it's darker than what's going on below here. So by using the cross hatching that I mentioned before, I have more control over the values. I can be more subtle in the transitions. I'm not committing right away. And the good thing about the darks over here, it creates some interest away from here. More of a balanced composition. Okay. Great. And of course, just with the cross hatching over here, you can see that I do have a variation of tone. So now I'm actually able to go ahead and take my Woodless Graphite and accent that dark. And also I realized that I missed the shape a little bit. And that's what you do when you draw the portrait. You're going to be constantly correcting, reevaluating, measuring. Now right here, there seems to be a value and a shape right like that. Now looking at this on the value scale, I would say it's pretty close to the paper. So with that being said, if the value is pretty close to the paper and that's looking light, then I realize I have to come in with the white pastel and lighten up the area around it so it looks darker. And that, of course, is called simultaneous contrast. Is when something looks darker or lighter because of what's next to it. Hey, Emmanuel, how are you? Good to see you, man. Any questions? Feel free to ask, guys. Oh, thanks, Emmanuel. I appreciate that. And what I'm doing now is I'm just going ahead and... Oh, thanks, Emmanuel. I appreciate it. I love your work. Really enjoying seeing your work on Facebook. I really enjoy it. And just like when I was over here, I want to make sure that I establish the light here. And notice that I am actually following the contour and the direction of the skin and muscles. It's not crucial, but I feel that every little bit helps to create a feeling of form. Now once I go ahead and go ahead and model this with the pastel, we'll be able to go ahead and sculpt out some of the darks in that neck and the shoulder and the cast shadow from the ear. I was saying earlier that this technique I learned when I was going to the National Academy School of Fine Arts, and what I would do is I would tell them that I was a grad student working on my thesis, and they would actually, I would make an appointment, and in the drawing archives, those are the drawings that aren't on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they would actually, I'd make an appointment and say, well, I want to see some Jacques-Louis David 19th century French neoclassical drawings. And they would say, okay, come by, Thursday at 1:30 or something like that. And I would go there, and they would actually take the drawings. Of course, they were in frames, of course, protective frames. But I was able to put them on a small easel and just have a private viewing of these drawings. And they were just ridiculously educational. And so from looking at them, they loved using this tinted paper. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like it. I was blessed to have some really great art teachers, don't get me wrong. Some really fantastic art teachers. Famous art teachers, such as Harvey Dinnerstein, Ron Scher, Erwin Greenberg, Max Ginsberg. I mean, just the list goes on and on. And with that being said, I was able to, get some great direction as a very young artist. Now, when I was at an art school age, I sought them out because for me, I definitely did not want to study with lesser artists, so I sought out the best. And when you seek out the best, you're pushed. And believe me, I was pushed, and there were many a days when I would leave the classroom in tears because I felt like I wasn't at the level I wanted to be. So I'm using the paper stump that is basically just dedicated for the white pastel. I would never use the paper stump that I use for the graphite because, wow, Emmanuel, you did amazing being self-taught. That's incredible. So that's a feather in your cap. Yes, I was very blessed to have, the art education that I had. I happened to live in New York City during the time that I was in school age. My parents moved to New York. I heard about the High School of Art and Design for shout out to all those art and design people out there, High School of Art and Design. That was a great, great exposure for me, really was. So I'm using this this mono eraser. It's almost like a pencil. But look how I'm able to sort of use that to erase the white pastel to create the value of the paper underneath. It's very cool. So remember I said that there was a shadow plane? Now you can see that since I have the white next to it, all of a sudden the color of the paper is pretty dark compared to the white. And let's use this here. We can go back to that underplane or the cast shadow of the ear here and really see it in a different light. Tonight I really want to go ahead and look at how to really handle the hair. A lot of times I see young artists just go into the hair without really taking time, or maybe being careless in how they handle the large areas of dark. I mean, these are things that can hurt the work. So we don't want to work really hard in the eyeball, and then when it comes time to work on the hair, I think that could cause, it's like you work so hard on the eyeball, the hair is relatively easy, but doesn't mean that we can let our guard down, or for one instance, be nonchalant about it. So what does everyone think of the angle here? Okay, so Emmanuel, thank you so much. So what you want to do is when you go on to YouTube, just type in Timothy John Luke Smith, and I'll come right up and you can subscribe to there. That would be the best way. And you'll see my channel, and you'll see all the, I have a lot of videos up there, so I think you'll really enjoy it. A lot of instructional videos. I've been doing videos on YouTube actually since 2008. I did stop for a while, which really wasn't cool for me, because, I lost a lot of traction. I could have been much further along in my subscriber base, and so yeah, so right now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on the way the light is hitting her chin. Her chin is actually pointed to the light, so with that being said, there's a little bit of highlights here. And this really goes a long way to describing the form, as you can see. Like I said earlier, one of the things that I really mentioned was that it is very important to realize that skin, for the most part, is not smooth. So I have a lot of young artists say, how do I get skin to look like skin? And my answer is, it's all in the texture. And not just the texture, but realizing how that texture is being reacted to the light itself. So really pay attention to that. So I'll look at it this way. That will really help you next time you're working on skin or how it reacts. So let's say you're working on the eyeball. The eyeball is very smooth. It reflects very evenly, and there aren't any, it's not bumpy, it's very placid, like a lake. You ever see a lake that is placid, a lake that is smooth, and the way the reflection, the light reflects off of it is like a mirror? That's because it's smooth. There's no bumps or no texture. But on the same token, just like skin has texture. It's not smooth. Now that is much like the light when it's reflecting a river that is moving along, or an ocean. And you ever see how it's just sort of sparkles? It's sort of, you get all these little dots of brilliant highlights. Well, that's what the skin is like. The skin is like that. You get the dots on the skin because it's not smooth. So definitely keep that in mind next time you observe the way light is hitting skin and the eyeball. Notice right here how on the nose, on the tip of the nose, there's a highlight because it's smooth. And so you get more of a smooth shape, or more of a brilliant highlight, because there's less texture on the ball of her nose. It's something definitely to think about. What I'm doing here is making sure that I'm able to, I'm going to use the Kneaded Eraser to calm down this light here, but I don't want to lose the texture. So I'm going to knead the Kneaded Eraser into a little point here. And these are all just techniques that I learned over the years of drawing, basically my whole life. I used to draw as a little kid all the time as a little boy. And then when I got older, maybe between 9 and 13, I stopped drawing for a while. And then I moved to New York. I think it was around 14 years old, and then I really got into the artwork. I mean, really got into it. And that's when I started getting all these art books before I went to school. And then I had a little part-time job, and whenever I had the money, I bought art supplies and these Walter Forster art instruction books, which are really cool. And I'll tell you, that's how you get good, you know. You have to be motivated. That I was motivated as a kid. Kind of makes for an interesting childhood. But like I said in a blog I posted not too long ago, I never got into art for the money. But I realized that I have to stop monetizing it. I worked really hard. I had gotten to a certain level, I would like to think. And so I am going to start doing some ebooks, which I hope you guys are interested in. I'm going to be doing some videos and set up a Patreon account. All these different things that are going to help me to continue to grow and share all those years of hard work with everybody. And of course, right now I'm reiterating these highlights on the lips there. So keep in mind, I'm showing everyone the grayscale, and of course the grayscale is right over here. So keep looking at that and notice that I'm not just, you know, drawing, but I'm looking at the values. Oh, wrong way. It's that way. Sorry about that. and everything's backwards here. So as far as my left and right, yep, that's the way. That's the values. There's also like a slight delay. I would say like maybe a 2-second delay from what I'm doing to what you guys are seeing. So with that being said, I do apologize if I don't answer your question right away. So you see, when we were talking about a placid lake and a river and how the sun reflects on it. And so here we're seeing the other effect of the lips, which is a relatively smooth surface. Now, these highlights, you know, that you see, they're very thin, so I really will have a hard time with a pastel pencil to get that highlight. So what I'm going to do is just use this mono eraser to go ahead and thin out that highlight. But look how beautiful that is. And little by little, she's coming together. It's not something that is rushed into. That's not what it's about. I'll tell you, over the years I've learned several different techniques, everything from oils to acrylic, gouache. I mean, any medium, basically, you name it, I've actually studied it and studied it formally. So, but you know what? I always go back to drawing. Drawing is always, you know, it's always going to be my first love when it comes to working. It's just the way it is. It's what we begin when we're little kids, right? And how many of you guys been at a meeting at work when people are thinking that you're writing down notes and you're doodling? Everyone, even the CEOs out there, you guys and girls all know that you guys are guilty of that. Come on. Because that's our normal inclination, is to draw. I mean, what kid doesn't love to draw? So what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of some of those pencil lines that I put in there on the lips when I was first putting in for, there we go, for proportion and whatnot. So it's a pretty slow night. I don't see too many people on Facebook, but I'm going to check and see what's happening on YouTube right now. Just bear with me. I'm going to go to my channel and let's see. Now what I'm going to do, just bear with me, I'm just checking the live stream right now. And so this is the first time I'm actually doing live stream. Hey, Jurian13, how are you? You have a question. Okay, great. When shading in a portrait, do I use more like cross-hatching method or tilt the pencil and layer it like painting to get the right tone? You know what? All of the above. And that's the best answer. I did say earlier, I don't know if it was earlier today or just now, cross-hatching is the best. I'm just going to write that, all the above, and cross-hatching is the best method for control. thanks so much for that question. I really appreciate it. Sorry it took me so long to get to you, but I do see that we are doing really well with the live stream, and that's good, and everything looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to working. So I'm sort of a one-man show tonight, so if you please ask any questions. If I don't get to you right away, you know, please, I will get to you after this is over. So definitely encourage questions. Now, what's interesting, you know, where those highlights are on the lip, there is a corresponding dark right next to it. That really, when you see that up close, it is really cool. It really gives that impression of the indentation of the lips. I really learned that method, or that technique, from my airbrush friends. I'll tell you, the airbrush artists, they really know realism. I'm telling you, those guys are incredible. I'm going to go ahead and I think I ignored the eyebrow over on the left a little bit long enough. So I'm just going to go ahead and to answer your question, over there in YouTube, you'll see that I am going to use the cross hatching to get the variation of the light and dark in this eyebrow. And of course, that eyebrow is really great because it enables me to go ahead and give it interest. It also sort of rounds out the portrait. These little details really bring things together. But as always, you want to do the details, you know, you don't want to have the details be the main thing. They are at the end. They really make everything look great. But you need that solid structure first. That's why I work on the larger areas. There you go. Now I do see these, do you see where the eyelids are? Now I'm a little harsh with that, and I can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the kneaded eraser, and I'm just going to, you know, twist it to this a very thin shape, so I could lightly, there we go. Whoop. Okay. There we go. So now it's not as harsh as it was before. And you know, you do that, you know, you will see things as the drawing or painting develops. And like anything else, it gives you as you work, it gives you an opportunity to really see what's happening, what the information is. That's why I like taking my time, relaxing. And I'm just going to do a quick check to see if there are any more questions. nope, no more questions on YouTube, but I do see I have 2 people watching. YouTube people, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love it that you take your time out of your Wednesday night to look at my live stream. Thank you so much. So now we're going to go back. Boy, this is pretty cool. I'm juggling live stream on 2 different platforms at once. Modern technology, huh, guys? So let's go ahead and look at the edge of the eyebrow here. Remember, her eyebrows are natural, so it's not painted on. So it's not going to be this perfect shape, of course. It's pretty slow here on Facebook. I don't see anyone here. Maybe everyone's out getting ice cream or something. Okay. Now on her eyebrows you can see that there are the hairs coming out here. Individual hairs which make up the eyebrow. So right now I'm just working on the edges, making sure that I am paying attention to what's happening overall, making sure my grayscale is correct, all that stuff. All the things that are important to create a drawing that is realistic, but also a work of art and at the same time. It has good design. Nature never has bad design. It's only when we interpret nature the wrong way does bad design happen. Okay, so see, so now when I went ahead in with the eyebrow, you can see that it sort of opened up what's happening in the eye socket there. And I can also see that I went a little too dark in this shadow. Now always remember that there aren't just shadows, there are things going on in the shadows. You know, in the light area, it's almost like everything is loud. You know, you see all the details. But a lot of times in the shadow, it's not completely in darkness. So there are details, but the details are kind of like a whisper. So you have to listen closely. You have to watch closely. And of course, I'm going to keep saying this because I want you to really use this technique. Remember, the white pastel only gets blended with the paper stump dedicated to the white pastel. You're not going to use the one that is dedicated for the pencil. See, this is different. If I went in there, you wouldn't have these beautiful tones. Okay. We're also going to take a look here. And I think I was a little overzealous in the shadow, which is under her eye here. Kind of gets rid of the harshness. When we're painting portraits, you can see those who have the least amount of experience, basically their portraits are very harsh. They're not They're not subtle. And harshness kind of makes the person you're painting or drawing look mean. And we don't want them to look mean. And like I said, every time you work on a certain area, it's going to actually have a ripple effect as well. So with that ripple effect, you can see that there's a ripple effect over here. Sort of softens up this area. So I'm basically going to be doing this for about an hour. It's been about 40 minutes now. I don't want to bore anybody, that's for sure. No, I'm definitely not boring anybody, but I definitely don't want to have it too long. Now, the good thing about this video here, you'll be able to see it also on YouTube, and you'll also be able to see it on Facebook. So if you missed it, no worries, you can definitely catch it. So that's cool. Let me adjust this here. Okay. And I'm just going to quickly go to YouTube, see if anyone's asking any questions. Nope, that's cool. Okay, and all right, great. So let's go ahead and continue with this drawing. So I have my reference here. Now, with this eye, we can see that there's real subtlety going on here. Real subtlety. And the values are a little bit lighter. So what's interesting is there is this really, I look at this sort of like a windowsill where the bottom eyelid sort of comes out like a windowsill. A lot of people miss that when drawing portraits. Sort of like an approach avoidance. Have you heard about approach avoidance? It's not hard, but it's something that just seems really difficult to do, and so we avoid approaching it. A lot like when someone avoids painting water or painting a glass. Like, wow, that's really difficult, but it really isn't. Actually, painting glass and water is one of the simplest things. It's just, you know, we're told, oh my God, or our mind's telling us that's impossible. Here's a trick. So I want to be more subtle with the application of the pastel. So what I can do is I just put some pastel here on the paper. I'm lifting it up with the stump, and I'm going to use that. Almost like a paintbrush. That's a little secret technique that I'm sharing with everybody today. There we go. Now you see, just something as subtle as that really softens up her expression, her countenance, and that's what happens when we pay closer attention to what's happening. As we work on the portrait, especially over an extended period of time, you get to know the person, you get to know what's happening, you get more familiar with their face and their features. There we go. Now we are going to try and sharpen this point here a little bit. Let's see. It's kind of tricky. There we go. So what I want to do, there are very thin highlights here. Now this is the wateriness of the eye. What I can do is I can actually thin that out once I applied it, very much like the highlights I did on the bottom lip there. So these are all techniques that I picked up over all those years of drawing on the subways and on the buses and the trains. There we go. I just want to really make sure I'm not going too crazy with this light. There we go. Just a very quick indication. And then on the edge of that sort of windowsill there, just want to make sure I get the right angle. Here's these little dots because the bottom eyelid is wet. There we go. Whoop, sorry about that. And of course I can shape those lights. There we go. And we'll refine this, you know, over time. Go. Then we can use this really beautiful small eraser and sort of darken in between. And then here's interesting. I don't really go in too much with detail, but I definitely want to show everybody. Let me do some of this light under here. Course, use the stump. One of the things I said earlier that I like telling my students is to look for 2 seconds and draw for 1 second using that ratio. You never want to work without referring to the model or the photo reference or the landscape. You never want to work too much without looking. That's when the mistakes happen. We never want to trust our own inclinations. If we do, what happens is blonde-haired people have yellow hair and all these other different things happen. Trees become brown, the sky is blue, grass is green. But Claude Monet and Renoir and Pissarro would definitely tell you otherwise. And that's what their career was about. Okay. So I do like the way that the light is sort of being portrayed here with the eye. So what I was thinking was, let's go ahead and work on some of these lower eyelashes. Now remember, they definitely aren't what you think. They're not these sequential little Maybelline things that you see in Vogue. They are very erratic. They're light, they're dark. They're more tonal in structure when you look at them. And just little indications. And the same thing, so a lot of times if I work on one eye, I try to move around and work on both eyes because they're so relative to one another that you don't want to develop one too far ahead of the other one. You can refer to one eye and look at it and say, whoa, you know, that eye is much too big. So you're able to definitely do some damage control. And now you see how it's sort of spilling over. The eye is definitely getting a lot more subtle. The eyes are getting a lot more subtle because I'm spending more time there. So like I said, I really love this technique. I think this technique is head and shoulders over just using white paper with pencil for me. No, I know artists out there who do that and the work is great. But for me, I just love the way this looks. It does have that timeless 19th century look about it. So I really enjoy it. So that's why most of my drawings are on this paper here. Now this paper is going to be in a description field on my YouTube video. You'll see that, and I'll put links in the description for the paper, for the pencils, the erasers, everything. If you're interested, I could actually send you a packet, and I'll charge you a very good fee if you know, it would be all the supplies that I use and even a quick video in using the paper if you were interested in that, because that's going to be something that I'm doing down the line. Because I want to create projects that we could work along and work together, which to me would be very exciting. Think of how fast everyone could actually work along with me if you have the same exact supplies and a quick video to get accustomed to this technique. So once again, I'm using this this stump, which is dedicated just for the pencil. Interesting. Remember I talked about edges and how important they are. It's not good enough just to have the proportions. It's not good enough to have the values. That's good, but edges are so important. So look at this, like, little eye, the cast shadow of the eyelid here, of the upper eyelid. You can see how harsh I made it. Now, I could say to myself, what was I thinking? Well, it's not really. It's just now I'm seeing things, I'm looking closer. Also, when you're really paying attention to something and you're really looking at the model will reveal her secrets. Nature will reveal her secrets. And that's why I say, look for 2 seconds, draw for a second. It goes for painting, goes for everything. Look for 2 seconds, draw for 2 seconds. So you see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there is a lot more clarity here because I softened that. It looks much better. See, that's what you need to see before you even think about eyelashes. And to my YouTube viewer out there who had that question, yes, so I actually am going ahead and using that little cross hatching because you have more control of the value. There we go. And if anyone has any questions, always feel free to ask. It's my pleasure. I'm going to try and do these a lot more, these live views. It's important. It's important for the health of my YouTube channel. It's important for me to get better and get better with my cinematography and, you know, my presence online, and also helping out my art friends out there. And over here, I'm just working on the edges here, and I could see that things were not as harsh as I originally had noticed, originally thought. Now, when you do soften things up as they are, when you do go ahead and put in a dark accent, pops. And that's nice. So notice, everybody, that I am not even thinking about eyelashes yet. Down the line, you might want to put an eyelash here or there. That's cool to do that, just to give you a indication of the plane of the you know, the lower eyelid, whatnot. What I'm going to do here is there are some lights here, little tiny highlights that have spaces between them. You know, it's sort of, it's not always the line that you put in, but the spaces between the lines that make a difference. So I have a question for anyone out there who might have an answer. I would like to have a sort of an easel that I could use overhead of my table, so I can do much better with a much better setup with my live views and also my YouTube videos. If anyone has an idea out there, I know you guys and girls are smarter than me, so I would love to hear. Actually, I'm actually going to do a video asking everyone if anyone out there has an idea of, and hey Wendy, how are you? Thank you so much. Thanks so much for stopping by. So you can really see how these little things, such as the light here on that windowsill of the lower eyelid, really sort of takes the drawing to the next level. And that's what I tell my students, you know, it doesn't take much to get to that next level. Let me use this here. And so little by little, this drawing is coming together. So that's basically going to be it for now. And I just want to say this was a solid hour and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to try and do it again tomorrow during the day. And also I want to go ahead and try doing this maybe tomorrow evening as well. I definitely want to share this technique with everyone. And thank you so much everyone for stopping by. So let me go ahead and let's see. So ask any questions or anything. Like always, I love to hear from everyone. Take care, people on YouTube. Take care, Facebook.